Happy Thursday, Allegra here from Beyond Your Wildest Dreams to talk about all things productivity and time management, but always through the lens of brain science and self care. I'm never going to tell you, I want to teach you how to do more things so that you turn into a little productivity robot. No, I want to teach you how to do more of what's important to you, whether that's writing, starting a business, getting in naps, whatever is important to you is what I want to help you do more of. And that's why I call my business Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, because I have found that when you harness the power of planning, when you learn how to be productive in a mindful way that is healthy for you, what I have found is that you can live a life that is beyond your wildest dreams, because I know that I hoped that I could do the things that I do, but to actually be living them is incredible. Actually, I set a goal for myself, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to produce a stand-up comedy show, and this Sunday is my the second show that I'm producing. So, it's amazing when you set a long-term goal and then you're accomplishing it and then you're actually in it. Like, when I'm doing that show this Sunday, it's like I'm stepping into a dream. It's so amazing. So, thank you for joining me. If you're listening live, feel free to pop questions into the chat. I do see them and I will respond to them as I'm able to. And if you catch only part of this and you want to listen later, this will go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. This will be episode 120 when you end up looking it up. So you can always find it there. And if you're joining me after the fact, you're listening to the recording, you can still pop questions in. I usually see them. I may not get to them as quickly as when it's live, but I love reading comments and questions. So today's topic is how to pick the perfect planner. God, I just love how that sounds. All those P's all lined up, that alliteration. How to pick the perfect planner. But really, let's take even one step further. What I'm really talking about today is how to pick the perfect paper planner. Yes, I got another P in there. How to pick the perfect paper planner. Why a paper planner? Because there are things that you can do with a paper planner that you just can't do with your online devices. And by the way, and I do use my digital devices, right? Like, I do use my phone. I set alarms. I do use it for certain things, which I'll talk about in a second. But there's also just a connection that happens when you're writing. There's a connection that happens between your hand and your brain that really gets things into your brain. So the science shows it gets it into your brain much better than when you type it out. So I will get into that in a minute, but if you're joining me for the first time, then you know that I always pick a card from this deck of cards. And also, I wanted to do one thing. This is also a new thing I'm doing. I want to let you know what my future podcasts are going to be about. So if you're joining me today, September 4th, next week, September 11th, I'm going to have a guest on. Mandy Graziano. She has written a book on sales. She's a coach for sales. She's written a book called Sales Tales, and we're going to talk about that. But she's also, I saw her do an event all about sort of networking in a way that is more natural and comfortable. And I thought it was so helpful. So I want her to share some of those tips with you. So that'll be September 11th. And then September 18th, I'm going to talk about chronotypes, what they are, and how knowing what your chronotype is can help you to be more productive. So those are upcoming topics. Okay. So for now, let me pick a little card from my deck of cards here. The best work is not what is most difficult for you. It is what you do best. Jean-Paul Sartre. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do not speak French. The best work is not what is most difficult for you. It's what you do best. Oh my gosh. So I have a perfect story for this. I took a test called Clifton Strength Finders. I don't know if that's still the term for it. Maybe it was called Gallup something when I took it. I took it many years ago, 2017-ish. And it was interesting because the person who came up with this test said that it is much easier. I guess the person who came up with it was probably someone named Clifton, said that it is much easier to become really good at what you're already sort of good at than to get any sort of ability in something that you're not good at. And I actually read this little booklet that Clifton put out, where they actually used the story of Rudy. Maybe you've seen that movie about a football player. I think Sean Astin, isn't it? I'm just I never look at these cards beforehand, so I wasn't planning on speaking about this. So I think it's called Rudy. I think it's Sean Astin, and he's, I think, a Notre Dame football player, or he wants to be a Notre Dame football player. Maybe he's a student. Maybe he's someone who works on site. I forget the details now, but he dreams of being a football player, and I've never seen the movie, so I don't know what happened. But what they say in the book is that, yes, he ended up playing for maybe a minute, and it wasn't even a good play, right? The play that he executed on the field, it wasn't a good play. So maybe I think they said that in the movie he does some like winning touchdown or something. And they they use the story to explain that this person spent years of their life pursuing this goal and ultimately didn't have a lot to show for it. Now, I think you could probably make the argument, well, I mean, they made a movie about it, so maybe not nothing to show for it. And also, they didn't interview this Rudy person, so maybe Rudy thought it was a great trade-off. I don't know. The point of Clifton is that they believe that if you figure out what your strengths are, then you can really focus on your strengths and get even better at the things that you are already sort of good at. And so I think Jean-Paul Sartre would agree with Clifton, because Jean-Paul Sartre says the best work is not what is most difficult for you, right? So like Rudy trying to become a football player when he's just not a football player. It is what you do best. Like Rudy sounds like a very motivated person. Maybe he should have become a motivational speaker or something. Maybe we've done really well with that. But, I think this is something that we can often struggle with in, at least, I don't know, the United States, or maybe it's all Western cultures. A lot of us get shoulded on, you should look like this. You should drive this kind of car. You should have this kind of career. And let me tell you, as someone who doesn't do anything that I quote unquote should do, it can be really hard figuring out what it is that you actually want to do, which is why I created my course, Harness the Power of Planning. It's all about tapping into, excavating out from under all the shoulds and tapping into your root desires, what's really important to you, so that you can figure out what your strengths are, like Jean-Paul Sartre, and share those with the world. Because I do believe that we all have strengths, and that your strengths are your gifts, and your job is to become really good at those and then to share them with the world. And as you can see, I am a lover of words, which is why I am all about sharing words, either through this podcast or with the books I've written. I didn't pull out my books, my 4 books that I've written, or whether it's, training and public speaking and emceeing in person. I like to share the gift of bringing people together with words. And so if you feel like you're not using your natural gifts, maybe consider exploring them. See if using those gifts might bring you more joy than you're expecting. I know it does for me. When I am presenting or training or doing stand-up comedy, whenever I am sharing words, time flies. I immediately get into flow. It's just when I'm my happiest. So there you go. Thank you, Jean-Paul Sartre, for that thought. Now, let's get into how to pick the perfect paper planner. That sounds like a tongue twister, right? Like Peter Piper picked a peck of pulvers. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say there is no perfect planner out there. And I know this for a fact because I have used paper planners my whole life. Actually, I have, I think, maybe all of them that I've ever used. I don't know. I know I have one dating back to when I was 16 years old. So that is 35 years ago. So I have 35 years worth of planners at least. But I think I actually might have used a calendar even before that. So maybe going back to 13 years old. I love planners. And for a long time, actually for 5 years, like maybe from 2015 to 2020, I actually no, before that. So sometime in the early aughts, I started experimenting with making my own planner because I had never found the perfect planner and I thought for sure it is out there. And so I experimented with creating my own layouts, and then I would print out a week's worth of pages at a time, and then the next week, I would adjust and I would print out another week of pages. And I kept thinking that at some point I would hit on the perfect planner, the perfect layout, and I would never need to adjust again. And guess what? It never happened. That's right. There was no perfect planner. I did this for like 5 years. I never did not adjust something. Okay, maybe there were a couple times I didn't adjust, but literally I kept playing with the template over and over and over again. So that's when I realized that it's not about the planner itself. It's about how you think about this tool. A planner is a tool. How you think about this tool that you're using that is most important, which again is why I created Harness the Power of Planning, to help teach you how to use this tool. But let's get into the tool first of all. So, the perfect planner is the planner that you will use. And so I'm going to talk about 3 tips that will help you pick the perfect planner for you, and I will explain why the planner I choose is the planner that I keep going back to year after year. It's going to be my 9th year using it, I think, 2026. So this planner is good enough that I've continued to use it, but I don't use it exactly the way it was designed. I've used it in a way that makes sense for me. So when I started thinking about Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, one of the first things I did was I asked people, hey, can you let me know if you have a planner that you did not fully use and you're willing to give to me? Give me your planner. I got dozens of planners, so many planners. I have a small handful of them here, so many different planners. And it's amazing how I think the farthest people got was into February, right? So a lot of people have this goal of using a planner and then never actually get it done. Okay. So here are the tips for moving from I want to use a planner into I'm actively using a planner. Okay. Step number one in picking a perfect planner is pick a cover that looks enticing to you, because this planner is going to be out there on your desk, floating around your house, competing with all the other things that you live with, all the other books you have. If you live in a house like mine, there's books everywhere. It needs to stand out. It needs to call to you. I always say that I feel like this cover feels like a talisman. Like I just want to I just want to massage it. Like, I love you. Let me spend time with you. It's just pretty. I like the color, I like the design. I've used different colors over the years. Let me see if I have one handy. I think I was using, I can't reach it. I've used their rose gold version. I've used their black version. My husband has used a yellow one. He's used a dark blue. So we've used different colors. We've used different images. This is my favorite image, the one with the tree and the little girl meditating underneath. And it has all these affirmations on the cover, like, I am filled with gratitude and kindness for another day on the earth. So it reminds me of what's important, this book. That's what this cover says to me. This cover says to me, I'm important. You want to spend time with me. I'm going to help you do cool things. By the way, this is next year's planner, which is why it looks virtually unused. You can see I've already started setting it up. How to set up your planner, that's a whole nother podcast, which I will come to quickly in the next, I don't know, month or so. But the reason why I'm doing this podcast now in September is because I've already had this planner for a couple months. I buy next year's planner by mid-year. And actually, I'm going to have to start buying it earlier because I actually had someone who wanted to book me for a training in 2027. And right now, I wrote it in December 2026 to hold the date, but I need a 2027 planner already. So that's why I'm doing this early. I'm planting the seed for you so that you can right now start thinking about buying a paper planner for 2026. And I'm going to give you these tips so that you can percolate on it, you can think about it, and you can consider, as you start seeing planners for sale, you can consider which planner you want to get. So that's why I'm doing this podcast now rather than November 23rd or December 23rd, which is when a lot of people are thinking about, "Oh, I need a planner for next year." No, I want you thinking about it now so that you can consider these points before you get yours. So, pick a planner that calls to you, that you wanna spend time with. Also, when you're thinking about what the planner looks like, think about the size. This is a planner that does not get lost. That's why I like this. That's one of the reasons I like this size. Another reason I like this size, I'm going to talk about in just a second, but this size can't get lost. Here is a planner that someone gave to me. Look at how teeny it is. Yes, it's great. You can practically pop this in your pocket. It's so small. For those listening to the podcast, I'm holding up something that is the size of an index card. It's maybe 3 by 5 inches, whereas my planner is the size of a full piece of paper. It's like 8.5 by 11 inches. So 8.5, 11-inch book will not get lost on my desk. A little 3 by 5 book, that would get lost on my desk. Also, this one, it's just very utilitarian. For those who are listening, again, it just has some blue and white polka dots on it, and the front cover is completely taken up with what this thing is. It is a weekly, monthly planner from June 2015 to June 2016 with tabbed calendars, yearly reference calendars, contact pages, note pages. I mean, basically, this is the sales page, the front cover, versus mine, which is this gold foil, beautiful drawing of a tree with a girl meditating under it. And it has all of these affirmations all over it and some cute little images like people stretching. You can't see it, but there's a person doing a um, backward warrior backward warrior yoga pose. So, and then there's like a person celebrating over a light bulb, like they just had a great idea. So it has all this positive imagery that makes me want to spend time with it versus this index card size one, which really it just looks like this was the tag that you scanned going through the checkout to get the price. But it takes up the whole front cover. So not inspiring. So find a planner that is a cover that you like and is a size you like. Here's another planner. This one's a little bit better. It's got this green squiggle on it. It's at least interesting to look at, but again, it doesn't really inspire me. This one's a little bit better. This one says it has all these stripes on it, these colorful stripes, and it says, "Have fun, be nice, work hard." So kind of some affirmations on it. That's a little fun. This is much bigger than the other one I held up. It's about 2/3 the size of mine, you can see. So not 8.5 by 11, but maybe it is 5 by 7 or something like that. And so that's a little bit better. And then, I have so many of these. If you like, those were all spiral bound. Here's kind of just a hardbound book. It's purple leather, so it's nice and official looking, but not inspiring, not exciting. So many planners. Here's an old school. Is this a Franklin Covey? I love Franklin Covey. They were my first planner. They will always have a special place in my heart. Yes, it's a Franklin Covey. So this is much more executive looking. It's like burgundy leather. Again, it's about the 7 by 8 size, and it's the 3-wing binder, so you can change it as the years come and go. You don't have to get a new cover. And again, if this excites you, great. For me, I like something with a little more pizzazz, if you will. And so that's tip number 1 is pick a design that makes you want to pick it up. Okay, tip number 2. You want to make sure that your planner has enough pages to do everything you want to do. 10 years ago, before I started using this planner, I used to have a planner, which let's really just call it was a calendar, really. So I had a calendar, and then I had a book for notes that I would take with me to meetings so I could take notes on whatever was happening. And then I had a gratitude journal that I usually kept by my bed because I would try to do that at night and in the morning. And so I had these 3 different books, and I felt so frazzled because I never knew where the books were. It was just 3 things to keep track of. And because I had 3 books, they were all smaller than my current planner. They were, about the size of the books I write, like this size, which is, I don't know, maybe it's 4 by 6, 4 by 7. And it was great in some ways because they were easy to take with me. I could slip them into my handbag, no problem. But they also got lost a lot. And I noticed that I just felt stressed, wondering, where's my notebook? Where's my calendar? Where's my gratitude journal? And so when I finally decided to embrace a large planner, like the one that I use, I decided that I was going to put everything in this one place. This would be my calendar. This would be my notes journal. This would be my gratitude journal. And really, I like the word planner, I do. But really, in a lot of ways, this book is my life, the blueprint for my life, as well as the record of what I've done. I kind of just think of this is 2026 for me. So, you want to pick a book that has enough pages to do everything that you want to do. And I have found this, I've never run out of pages. This has about 250 pages in it, the one that I like to use. I've never run out. Now, my friend Natasha, who, by the way, this is, I think, the 3rd podcast that I'm doing on how to pick a perfect planner. Of course, the other ones are slightly different, but I do recommend that if you want more of this, go back and listen to the others. You can hear Natasha and I talking about planners. And Natasha, the other year, she accidentally purchased the smaller size of the same planner, and she purchased it in black. And she thought, oh, black is nice and sleek and classic, but she found that she was losing it all of the time because the black didn't stand out the way the colorful planners, mine is a turquoise, the way the more colorful planners that she had used in previous years did, because she's used the same planner for a number of years now. And so she found that using black meant that it just blended into the background too easy. Also, she used the size that was about 2/3 the size of my planner, and she felt like it wasn't enough space. So what's great about a 250-page planner is that it's enough pages for you to plan out, to architect your year. Like, what do you want this year to be? To also take notes. So when I go to meetings, I take this with me. I make notes. There's note pages. There's For instance, there's little space in each week to write notes. Then after every set of week pages, there are pages, blank pages, full-size pages to take notes. And then at the back, there's like another 30 pages of blank paper for you to make notes. So it's enough space to make notes. It's enough space to do gratitude practice. It's also enough space to do mind mapping or brainstorming that you might want to do. It's also enough space that I keep a page in the back of every journal with book recommendations, because inevitably books come up and I want to keep track of them. That's where I write it down. I also have one for movie recommendations or podcast recommendations. I have one for places I want to visit, restaurants I want to try. These are all pages that you can create in your planner where you can keep track of things that are important to you. I also love this planner actually has a map in it. And so this is a fun way for me to record where I've traveled to, as well as I like to use stickers to put little stars to places that I want to go to. By the way, if you're like sold on this planner, you're like, oh my gosh, I want this planner. If you want the planner that I use, go to tinyurl.com/shop BYWD. That's BYWD, like Beyond Your Wildest Dreams. tinyurl.com/shop BYWD. And you will see my favorite planner is listed there, as well as some other things like these. You see these colorful little tabs that I use for the months. This planner comes with tabs that they just don't stay on well. So these I use, and then I use them also to create some other specialty pages, which again, that's a totally different podcast. I will do that in a month or so about how to set up your planner. But all those things are available for sale at this URL, tinyurl.com/shop BYWD. Okay, so you want to make sure you have enough pages to plan, to brainstorm, to mind map, to write down things you want to keep track of, like books to read, movies to see. Also, I believe that when you're looking at a planner's pages, you want to make sure you have weekly pages and monthly pages. So, weekly pages are these pages where there's usually an hour by hour breakdown. And then a monthly page is just what you think of as a typical calendar, right? There's the monthly pages. So it's got approximately 30-ish spots for you to keep track of. Now, I think it's important to have both of these because the monthly pages are where you keep track of things like meetings and events, things that are happening kind of further in the distance, anniversaries, birthdays, taxes due. I write down all the things that I know are going to happen because they happen every year, which again, I'll talk about that and how to set up your planner. So I write down the things that I know are going to happen. And then I also write down appointments that come up when I get booked to speak somewhere or when I have an event to go to. I write them down in my monthly planner. I don't look at the weekly pages until the Sunday before that week. And that's where I will transfer all the things from my monthly page to my weekly page, but I will also write things like call this cousin who lives out of town who I would like to speak to on a regular basis, but I don't always get to speak to. I actually have a practice of once a week calling someone who I don't see frequently, but who I want to keep up with. And so every Sunday when I'm looking at my week to come, I will write down, call so and so. This is the person I'm going to call this week. I will write down any hikes I'm doing, any exercise classes that I plan on attending, because that's the kind of stuff that you don't really need to put it in your monthly calendar because, at least for me, all my exercise and hiking happens before I'm going to do any work stuff. It all happens early in the morning. So I don't need to hold that space on my monthly page because I'm never going to plan a meeting or work event there. But when I'm looking at my weekly page, I do want to put that in at the 6 a.m. slot so that I remember, oh, I have this thing that I'm doing. And my exercise and hiking, those things happen repetitively. So it's not like I have to reinvent the wheel every week. I know, oh, okay, I'm doing a hike on this day. And those are just kind of instant to plug in. But the monthly pages are kind of where you do the big picture planning. And then the weekly pages are where you're doing your day-to-day living. And so that's why you need those two different kinds of pages. The other thing I use my planner for is I kind of use it like a light version of a scrapbook. I am not a scrapbooker, but I do like to keep track of things that I've attended or places that I've been. So, for instance, I did a comedy festival this summer and they gave me a sticker that says more women headliners. This is from the Laugh Riot Girl Festival. Plug to Dow Comedy. Love Dow Comedy and Bobby Oliver. If you haven't watched her special, it's on Netflix. It's amazing. Bobby Oliver, Bobbie. And she gave me this sticker, and so I stuck it on my planner. I also recently went to an event. It was a Prince IMAX movie, and they gave out these collectible little, it's like a faux ticket. See the other side, it looks like a ticket. I went to go see a re-release of his Sign of the Times movie. I'd never seen it, and it was out for only a week in IMAX. So I went and I put that in there. I also have things like my car registration is due in next month, so I have the envelope taped into the month that I need to send that in. And you can see my planner looks very different. This is my 2025 planner. You can see it's about 3 inches tall versus my 2026 planner. You can see where it started, just 1.5 inches thick. So by the end of the year, this planner will probably look like this. It'll be about 4 inches tall because it'll have so many little things put into it. But that's how I like to keep track of the things that I've gone to. I keep, business cards when I meet people. I will tape their business card in to when I met them. I will also, if you listen to my podcast, then you know that I do a weekly I do an annual trip with some of my closest girlfriends, and I love to use this service called TouchNote. I've talked about it so many times. TouchNote is a great app where you can create your own little postcards. And so this is from the postcard I created from this trip from this earlier this year with my girlfriends. And whenever I go on a trip, the first thing I do is I make a little postcard and then I put that into my planner to remember that event. So my recent when I did a comedy show earlier this year, my first comedy show that I produced, I made a little postcard, I put it into my planner. Someone sent me this really cute oh, actually, no, not someone, my husband. He gave me this really cute card and it goes into my planner. So these are all the different things that I put into my planner as kind of a light way to scrapbook. And I couldn't do this if my planner was smaller. So that's another reason why I like this size and also this many pages. Okay, so the third tip for picking a perfect planner is to look for specialty pages that serve you. And there's specifically two types of specialty pages that I'm a huge fan of. The first one are habit trackers. Now, this planner comes with a weekly habit tracker built in, and you can see it right there. A habit tracker is simply a grid where you write down whatever it is that you want to work on. They have pre-filled gratitude, meditate, and exercise. And then you can just check off or give yourself a sticker or write a happy face, whatever you want to do to celebrate that you did that thing. And I love habit trackers. The one thing I wish this book had was I wish it had a monthly habit tracker too, because there are some things that I only do once or twice a week that I don't need a weekly habit tracker for. I need a monthly habit tracker. Like, for instance, gardening, or we help our mother-in-law, put all of her pills together. That doesn't need to happen that often, but it does need to happen at least once a month. So I do wish it had a monthly habit tracker, but that's something that you can easily add. You can draw it in. You can print out monthly. There are lots of monthly habit trackers online. You could print one out and just slide it into this planner. So habit trackers are one. The other one are review pages. And the planner that I like does have a review page, but it's not exactly what I like. And so I did come up with a review page of my own. It's a downloadable thing. You can find it if you go to my website, bywdreams.com, and look in the blog section. You can find the monthly planner there. It's just an awesome way to reflect on your month. And it also helps to keep you on track with bigger things you might be working on in the year. So imagine this. Imagine you say, I want to run a marathon it's January, and you say, I want to run a marathon in August. Okay, well, I don't know when I've never run a marathon, but I'm going to say you need to start training, I don't know, in April maybe. Okay, so January goes by, February, March, April's finally here. If you haven't done a monthly, I call it a course correct. And I call it a course correct because even when you're on the right path, you have to do course correct, right? So what the course correct helps you do is it reminds you, hey, I said I wanted to do this thing in August. I wanted to run this marathon, and it's April now and I haven't done anything. It helps just keep you honest. It's like a built-in accountability buddy. And it's a great way to keep track of. Let's say you need to do 10 trainings in April. Okay, you set out a goal, 10 trainings. Did you hit 10 trainings? Did you do 8? Awesome. I would say 8 is a win. Did you do 2? Okay, now you're falling behind a little bit. So it helps keep you on track with these bigger goals, where if you are not keeping it in front of your face, you might forget about this thing that you said was a goal. So monthly review, annual review, and habit trackers. Those are the specialty pages that I really like. You might find other journals that have budgeting pages or maybe meal planning pages. The planner I like does not have those. However, it has enough space that you can build that in. So there are lots of pages out there, see what works for you. Another tip that I got from a mom who had 6 kids. I only have 1 kid. Mom friend who has 6 kids, she said that she liked having more monthly pages because that helped her keep track of her kids' schedules. She didn't want more weekly pages because the weekly pages just told her appointments when she needed to pick up and drop off. But the monthly pages helped her to keep track of class trips, all the different sports activities people were doing, plays and competitions people had. And so she liked to use a planner that was like the Franklin Covey version, the 3-ring binder, because she would buy extra pages of the monthly pages and just slide those in. So I think that's a great tip if you happen to have a lot of people whose calendars you need to track. You might want to put in more monthly pages somewhere. You could, if you only need one more set of monthly pages, which is just 2 pages, you could just glue those in to the planner that I love. A question I commonly get, by the way, about calendaring is, should I have pages for my professional life versus my personal life? And my answer to that is no. You are one person. If you have a meeting at 11 a.m., it means you can't go have lunch at 11 a.m. And you need to be aware of both of those appointments at the same time. So I would say no. A tip to, if you want to designate work things versus personal things, is you could use, let's say, a different writing utensil for the different items. Maybe you use blue pen for personal things and black pen for work things. Now, I personally only write my appointments in pencil because there's so much change is happening all the time. So that wouldn't work for me. So maybe I'd have to do something like put a little star next to things that are personal versus professional. Having a consistent system of notation is a whole tool in and of itself, and something I talk about regularly in my trainings. It's too much for this podcast, but that's a way that you could work around, designating personal versus professional. And by the way, these monthly reviews, I just want to say this was the hardest planning tool it took me the longest time to learn how to use it, but I love doing it because nothing fills me with gratitude the way reflecting on my month does. Humans, we have a cognitive bias towards recency. If you type cognitive biases in, it's really fascinating because people have identified, social scientists have identified a couple hundred cognitive biases that humans have. And basically, it's just a cognitive bias is just a way that we tend to think. And the way humans tend to think is we tend to give more value to things that happened recently because we can remember them better. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to the end of my month, I don't remember what I did the first week of that month. And so going back and doing a review is what reminds me of what I did this month. Maybe I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish, but I certainly chipped away at things. And that gives me such a sense of gratitude. Another thing you might want to think about is that some planners give you the option of starting your week on Sunday versus Monday or Monday versus Sunday. You might prefer a Monday start. You might prefer a Sunday start. I prefer a Sunday start. And you might want to look for that if that is something that will help you to be more efficient. Okay, so there you go. How to pick the perfect paper planner. Step 1, find a planner that has a cover that is enticing to you so that you want to work with it. Step 2, get a planner that is the right size. And by size, I mean has the right number of pages. I say at least 250, and also the right size so you won't lose it. I need a full size 8.5 by 11 for that, but maybe you can do it with smaller. And 3, look for specialty pages that help you live the life you want to live. I definitely recommend habit trackers and monthly review pages. You might want to include budgeting or meal planning in there if those are important to you. Remember, the perfect planner is the one that you are going to use. By the way, I just want to say one thing, digital devices. I still use my digital device, but I don't use it as a planner. I use it more like an alarm clock. So when I have meetings for the next day, I will, the night before, set alarms into my phone to give me enough time to get to that meeting If I have to drive, I build in drive time. If I'm not driving, then, I take that into account. I do use my Outlook calendar to keep track of Zoom links because I have a Calendly account where people can book time with me. And when they book time, it automatically creates a Zoom link that gets saved in my calendar. So I do use a digital calendar to keep track of those types of things, Zoom links, to set alarms. And like if I have a client that I have a reoccurring meeting with, I will send them an Outlook calendar meeting so that it just pops up on my calendar. However, those meetings still make their way into my paper planner because the, the digital calendar is just a way of storing digital information like links, but it's my paper planner where I do my planning for my day. So that's for me the way I use digital tools in my life while still mostly using a paper planner to do all of the strategic planning things. Thank you for joining me. As a reminder, next week, September 11th, I'm going to have an interview with sales coach and networking expert Mandy Graziano. And then September 18th, I'm going to talk about what's your chronotype and how knowing your chronotype can help you be more productive. Thank you for joining me today. As always, be sure to like and subscribe and rate wherever you're watching or listening to this. It costs you nothing and it helps me with the algorithm. And remember, planning